they're going to talk about the rides, but they're not. They're going to talk about the animals, or they're going to talk about the food, or they're going to talk about their grandmother made a pie and she won. She always had that pie that won. So everyone's got a story. And I think that's why fairs are so in our blood.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to Completely Booked. That was a snippet of our podcast with Gayle Hart, the Vice President of Marketing from the Greater Jacksonville Fair. I'm one of your hosts, Gabby.
And I'm your other host, Amanda. The Greater Jacksonville Fair wrapped up just a month ago, November 17th to be exact. And a few days after that, Gayle Hart visited us here at the main library to chat with us about the wonderful things the Greater Jacksonville Fair does for the city.
For example, we talk about how Gayle and her team are advancing education and awareness among people of Northeast Florida about science, arts, agriculture, and horticulture. We also chat about their commitment to the community through field trips and college scholarships.
We also talk about the mission of the fair, the wonderful story about how Gayle became involved in the fair, the food at the fair, and the difference between a carnival and a fair. We are so excited to be able to bring you this podcast. It's definitely a good one.
So without further ado, here is our podcast with Gayle Hart.
Well, welcome to Completely Booked, Gayle. We are so excited to have you on.
Well, thank you. This is fun.
Yeah.
It's just like girls sitting around.
Yeah, we're just chatting.
Yes.
Normal conversation. So it was really cold this year during the fair. How did the fair go this year?
Actually, our numbers were up, but it was chilly. We had a good opening. We opened on the November 7th, and it went really well for those first days, and including Veterans Day. On that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it was cold.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we had to get out the boots and get out the jackets, which you get excited about. You know, you're like, oh, I get to get my winter clothes out.
Definitely.
Except when you're out in it, like for 12 hours, it was chilly.
Yeah.
And I want to thank everyone that braved those elements to enjoy the fair. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
It was like record cold or something like that.
Was. But then you have the barns that you can get refuge, you know, in the barns and the exhibit hall. And we had record numbers in the exhibit hall, and I'm sure it's because of the weather.
Mm-hmm. And it's like Florida cold. You know, it's not like it's not real cold, but it's cold for us Floridians. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm originally from Midwest City, Oklahoma, and I went to high school at Midwest City and went to college at Southwestern Oklahoma State University in Weatherford, Oklahoma. And I came here. I married a man that was in the arts, and we were in Miami. He started the Miami City Ballet with Edward Villela. And I worked with both Edward Villela and Gayle Hart at Ballet Oklahoma back in the 80s. And we went to Miami so he and Eddie could start the Miami City Ballet. And I was doing my thing. I was working with marketing agencies, and then I worked with the Miami Film Festival, and I was just very happy there. And he got a call to come to do an interview in Jacksonville for the Florida Theater. And they were, it's when they were doing the renovation and needed kind of a different direction. And we came and looked at the theater and then went and did a tour. And then someone said something to him, said, "Oh, you're our new boss." And I looked at him. I thought we were just here like to look at the theater because he'd already been previously. I didn't know he had accepted the job. So that's how I found out we were moving. And it's just been amazing since. We've been here since 87. And my late husband, have factored well into everything that I did. I was in radio for 9 years, and then went to City Hall with special events. And then one of my friends, Nan Coyle, had asked me if I was interested in going and taking the marketing position at the fair. I said, I don't know. You know, I really enjoyed being at City Hall. And I told Eric about it. And he said, "Oh, you should try." And I said, "Well, I think that the position is pretty much, it's been open for about a month. I think they're about to wrap it up. And I got home that night, and he spun me around. He said, there's a voicemail for you. And it was Gary Rogner, who was the CEO at the time of the fair. And he said, I got your resume, and we'd love you to come and talk to us. We've got the finals going on, but you've got to come in the morning. And I'm like, look, what? And there was my resume with a cover letter that said, I'm interested in the position. And my name was forged. And he sent it. And then I got a call the next morning. They said, we really want you to come talk to us. And I said, look, I didn't send that. I just want you to know. My husband did that. And he said, I don't care who did it. You need to come talk to us. And I'm like, oh. So I changed at lunch and went and had an interview. And then they said, you've got to come back for another interview. And I took the position, and I've been there this was my 21st fair.
Wow. What a story.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
Yeah, very fun story. It's just, being in Jacksonville has just been such a wonderful everything for our family. We have 3 sons, and moving from Oklahoma to Miami was a cultural shock. And then moving from Miami to Jacksonville to me felt a lot like Oklahoma. The people were so warm and friendly, and it's, the landmass is the same. At one time, Jacksonville and Oklahoma City were vying for who had the largest landmass. So, you can drive for an hour and still be in Jacksonville. The only difference is, to me, with Oklahoma City and Jacksonville is that the ocean is there.
Right.
So you have that's the only difference. And then we don't have, here in Jacksonville, we don't have oil derricks everywhere. But other than that, it's basically, it's the same. But I've really loved it and enjoyed it, and absolutely love what I have an honor and privilege to do every day.
So 21 years, that's a good amount of time. Can you tell us how the fair has evolved over the years?
Since I've been there. Of course, when I got there, they had just started, they just built the buildings that you see now. A lot of people don't know this, but the fair, the Jacksonville Fair, is actually the Duval County Fair Association. And it's a 501c3. It is privately owned. It's not run or owned by the city at all. It's governed by a board of directors. And the mission is to bring agricultural teachings to all children, adults, in this area. And we were at one time, it is what it is. We're an urban fair. We're downtown. But now we're more or less in the sportsplex. We're right there with the Jaguar Stadium, across from the Shrimp Stadium and the arena. So we're right smack in the middle of all that's going on there. So it's seeing that. When I first started, none of that was. There was the Gator Bowl, but it wasn't like it is now. And where the practice fields, that used to be the baseball field. So everything, just being in that whole community, has just been wonderful to see it happen.
And the fair is such a huge event. Can you tell us a little bit about the team and how many people are involved in making it happen?
Well, we actually, a lot of people don't know this, but we work 12 months, and it's all my position. I also rent the buildings to different events throughout the year. For example, we have, the River Run and Well of a Sail and pet adoptions. And then we have a lot of private events too. So I'm totally booked in 2020, every weekend from January into May.
Wow.
I'm totally booked. And then the summer is, I'll start booking that up a little bit in the next few months. But we have something going on all of the time. So we have in our office, we have 5 people, and then 2 people that do maintenance. And that's it. That's our staff. But during the fair, we're comprised of not only our board of directors and our membership, which is over 100 people on our membership, we also have the Fair Ladies. That's a volunteer piece, but we've had to change it from My Fair Ladies to My Fair Ladies and Gents because men wanted to be a part of it. Those are the people you'll see like when you walk into the fair gates that are giving you the brochures and that type of thing. And then we just have so many people that work with us from the county extension office, from in the barns. You'll have the barn hands, you have the people that understand, the chickens and the rabbits and the cows and that type of thing. Then you have in the exhibit hall, you have the wood turners that are, put their exhibit on. Then you have the honey people, honey and bee people. And then you have the people that with the remote control airplanes and just, you have all those different volunteer units. And the Men's Garden Club, I can't leave them out because they have, that to me is one of our hidden jewels of the fair is the Men's Garden Club. You can buy the best plants at the Jacksonville Fair from the Men's Garden Club. And if you didn't this year, I'm sorry you missed it because they had some great ones. And they're such a good price. And if you ever have any questions about any of your plants, like my citrus is kind of messed up right now. Can you tell me what I need to do? And the same with the extension office. The master gardeners are always there to answer those questions also. But yeah, there's a lot of going on, a lot of little moving parts.
Yeah. And as far as the fair itself, like the rides and the games, that staff that operates the rides, do they travel with it?
Okay, that is that's a separate entity. That is Bell City Amusements, who, by the way, they're one of the top amusement companies in the United States. And they've been with us, gosh, I would say over 10 years. And the change with them when they came aboard with us, they look at it as such a business because it is. It's a family business, but the son has taken it over and, he's a businessman and, college educated and getting out of that mold that, people in our world to use the terminology carny is just, that's antiquated. That's not who puts on, the carnival piece anymore or the midway piece. They're business people. And like the games, for example, are owned by separately owned, and they come in with Bell City Amusements. They have to be of a certain quality. I mean, you have to have have nice, clean, an area, and do everything as a business person would, on the upright. So it's that whole piece has changed. It's just become cleaner and brighter, and they paint the rides continually so that they have that pop and they look pretty. So that's it's just a separate piece that makes the fair just nicer. Now, if you just have the rides, then you just have a carnival. But and we're sanctioned by the Department of Agriculture of the state of Florida. So in order to have a fair, we can't just have a carnival. We have to have teaching elements, like we have the Florida crops, where you go in and you can learn about everything that's grown in Florida, and you can touch them. You can touch the seeds. You can see the pictures. You can, so you have those learning elements, and it's the same in the barn. We have descriptions of what different animals or rabbits and chickens are, so that you can look at these rabbits, and some of them are quite humorous looking, and some of them are just like, you just can't believe it's actually a rabbit,
right?
But that's what makes us a fair. through Chapter 616 with the state of Florida.
I didn't know that.
So you
Well, it's a little more than you wanted to know.
No, that's good because I was curious. I didn't realize.
So the carnival or the Bell City Amusement is an addition to
Yes.
what you guys already
Yes,
do.
yes. And they, we're the last fair in the state of Florida. So they're gonna go home and kind of, breathe a little bit. And then the first fair, I think, is Manatee County in January. It's like the first, second week in January. But we all, after this, next week, we leave. We have, all of us are in an organization called the International Fair Association, IAFE. And we'll all meet in San Antonio. This is where we get updated on the latest everything. And I mean, a lot of it for me, every time there's a situation, this is from any fair, from, what's happened in Indiana or happened in Ohio, we learn from that. And so we have sessions of how to keep people safe, how, the protocols. And this is something that makes all of us better and keeps us all up with, thank you that nothing like that has ever happened to us in Jacksonville. But because we've learned from other fairs, we all are ready with any type of crisis. And we learn this. And that's, we learn fun things too when we go to convention. But all carnival owners will be there. Entertainers the trade show. When my husband was alive, I used to take him, and he thought it was just the coolest thing he'd ever seen in his life, because you'll see people on stilts, you'll see people dressed like rock stars, or people that are trying to sell you what they do, for what you can buy their entertainment. Like we have the racing pigs that we found at the different workshops and in the different conventions. We also have a state convention, which is the Florida Federation of Fairs, that I believe right now there's about 62 fairs in the state of Florida, and we get together in May and do basically the same thing. And right now, our new CEO president, Bill Olson, is the president of the Florida Federation of Fairs. So it's, we're all excited, for our next convention, because it'll be all about him.
Mm-hmm.
And we like that.
Is this his first year?
For being our CEO president. He's been with us 15 years. And you serve as president 1 year, and he took over in May.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's fun.
So what is the mission of the fair?
To provide quality entertainment to our community and bring educational pieces so that your children will learn that milk doesn't come from Publix, that, that it actually is a substance that comes from, an animal. It's also to teach our children that it's important, to raise our food sources, and even in college, to go into those venues such as, ag teaching or, ag management, but because, and even farming is so important for, our subsistence, for our lives, that we need to get people interested. So this is what a fair is about, is to teach people, about our food sources, and to bring it in, a fun way. And the fun way, of course, is with the fair food, or with, you can ride the Ferris wheel, or you can see, we have all types of entertainment that, people have said to me, like, it's expensive. And I said, well, if you do it correctly, it's really, it could be whatever your family can afford. Because if you buy the advance tickets, which are always on sale until the night before we open, and then it's half price. We have free shows. With your entry ticket, you could see the ag puppets, which is also a teaching element. You could see a circus. You could see a dog show. You could see the racing pigs. You can see entertainment. This year we had Chris Jansen. We had Blanco Brown, we had the Eli Young Band, we had the Blue Oyster Cult, and then we had some other local wonderful artists. And I forgot Uncle Cracker. But we have all this. It's free with the price of an admission ticket, and then you can go see the animals. We do not have a petting zoo, and I've been asked about this several times. We decided not to do that because because of the E. coli thing, we just didn't want to put anyone at risk. And that's why you will see, just in case someone does touch animals, you will see hand washing stands everywhere within the fair. But I love petting zoos. I think they're absolutely wonderful. But as a board,
Not worth the risk.
you know what? I love it when I can let the children hold the newborn chicks. And every now and then when I go over for a photo shoot, we'll pull them out and we will let people hold them then, but we wash their hands immediately. But it's such a cool thing to get to touch, little bitty. It just really is.
Yeah, and I love that mission because, I have a son and I don't have a farm. So my son has never seen where milk comes from.
Uh-huh.
So I think that is a great thing for people that just don't have the access to learn about that type of.
What we do have at the fair, we have it goes from fair to fair. It's part of the Florida Federation of Fairs mission to have a assimilated cow, and the children can go up to it and start milking it. So, and real milk doesn't come out of it, but then they understand, that you have to squeeze really hard and you have to really kind of pull on it. And it's a fun thing.
Mm-hmm. My favorite part was the butterfly exhibit. It's just so calming when you walk in there and they just fly on you and you're like.
Now, we didn't have that this year.
I think that was 2 years ago.
It was 2 years ago.
Okay.
And we did that for several years. We like to mix it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And this year we just had a big butterfly and pictures of different butterflies in our area and an explanation of what butterflies do for our plants and for our food source. And, it's, I think that's one thing that our children don't understand either about the caterpillars. And I thought that was fun when we had the butterfly exhibit.
Mm-hmm. There was a stick that you could put in honey and then the butterflies would land on it. My son was maybe 3 at that time and he just thought it was so cool.
It is cool. Yeah.
So what kind of volunteer opportunities do you guys have?
Well, as I mentioned, we have the fair ladies and the fair gents. Anyone that's interested in volunteering, all they have to do is get on jacksonvillefair.com, all one word.
And then there's a volunteer application.
I believe so. No, I'm saying that. I'm like, I believe there is.
Okay.
I think there's a whole section of how to get involved.
And guys do scholarships and you have field trips. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
That's one of the major things that we do is we have 2 field trips. We have one that's called Ag Venture. And part of that is kind of sanctioned from Department of Agriculture. It's a great learning resource. Their graders come in. They go through all of the teaching, and during that day, they'll learn how to make rope. They'll learn how to make butter. They will go from station to station and learn about the crops and learn about different plants and learn about just different pieces. There's a house a simulated house in the exhibit hall of, how to sustain with electricity and this type of thing. They go through all the different pieces and they learn that about difference in the chickens and the difference in the cattle, because we trade cattle out. We have, the Brahman, then we'll have, limousines, and just, so it's not always the same. But then we have the goats, which, they're always like the comedians of all the animals, because they will literally jump up, on the little cage and want to be touched and petted and all that stuff. Oh, one thing we had this year that I really almost omitted, we had the stingray encounter. which was new for us. And it was open 24 hours, and you could actually go, and there was an educator to teach you how to touch the stingray and about, what they do in the water and how to be careful of them.
Very cool.
Can you tell us about how you and your team are advancing education and awareness among Northeast Florida about science, the arts, agriculture, and horticulture?
Well, I mean, most of it, of course, is done with displays. And I didn't touch on it enough, but the scholarships that we give away about 9,000 in scholarships to high school students within the counties. And they're actually, you would be surprised how many people applied that have an interest in agriculture or have an interest to be a veterinarian or, something that has to do with what we do at the fair. So we feel like with these scholarships that we're helping to make it prevalent.
Definitely.
To want to go into any of those avenues. As far as we've dabbled in so many things throughout the years. I mean, we've had, when you mentioned the arts, one year we were able to get the historical society's the entity of the Great Fire, all of the photos and everything that Wayne Wood had put together for that. So we had that on display, and it was amazing. And we've also done. We had a resource with Arts Behind Bars, and we had a lot of those different paintings that were, and just drawings, doodlings that were on display. It's the one thing that is really kind of off the wall as far as when you say arts and education is Bartram Trail does this crazy, wonderful thing each year. They have students that make dresses. It's like Project Runway out of this year it was feathers and crepe paper.
Wow.
And it was absolutely stunning. One year it was cupcake wrappers. One year it was coffee filters, and stunning. And Linda Cunningham has judged that throughout the years. And the students, they win monetary monies for it. But it's such a cute, or you should use the word gorgeous. Some of them look very wearable. So it's, there's all different kinds of little contests that we have within the fair. This year, we did a thing where we painted rocks. It was rock, hashtag Jack's Fair rocks. And we hid them throughout the city, and you could win prize packages for four to come to the fair and enjoy it. We included food. We included all the rides you could ride. And it was next year we met one day and started painting, and we were going to do 100 rocks. We kind of pooped out at 50. We were like, oh, this is hard. But we tried to paint them like little animals, or we tried to do something that was very fair-like. But next year we know that we had such a good time doing it within ourselves with the volunteers that we'll start earlier and hide them earlier and do more.
Excuse me. It sounds, there's so much going on at the fair. What is your selection process for choosing what to represent each year?
You mean as far as?
Different, like exhibits and different types of animals?
Okay, the animals will stay the same. We may add horses or something like that. We don't, the past couple of years we've had, we don't historically do an auction or a sale. But the past couple of years, they've done a pull-it sale, and the money goes to the 4-H child that, raised the animal. And with chickens and everything, people having their own personal chicken coops. That's another thing that they teach in the exhibit hall. is how to raise chickens and how to build a coop and that kind of thing. But the only thing that really changes are the grounds acts, which are free, and the entertainment, which I book every year. And that's always, I feel like I just throw the dice, and just like every year it's just gets harder and harder because there's so much competition, especially here in Jacksonville. We have so many venues now, with dailies and with Thrasher Horn and with, the Florida Theater and the Ponte Vedra, and then, in St. Augustine with the AMP. There's just so many venues now that are doing entertainment that it's tough. It's tough to find someone that would, come and work with us for our budget. But I partner with Gator Country, and they do the Gator Country series during the fair. And that's been a wonderful partnership because we're able to really get some high quality people with their presence.
Very cool. So the library just recently inherited the Times Union archive collection a few months ago. And so each week, depending on what's going on, we try and think of a topic, and then the librarians will go in and see if there's anything relating to that topic. So a few weeks ago, I was like, oh, the fair is in town. Let's see. And it's never a promise. You can think, of something, and maybe there is a lot about the topic and maybe there's nothing at all. But for the fair, there were about 15 folders
Oh my gosh.
that I walked into, and they were just on my desk that morning. And that was the most content I've ever seen about one subject, and just spent the day going through and anywhere from like the 60s through like the 80s. It was so fun.
It was good stuff.
Yeah. And, it's the actual photo. It's not just the article with the kind of distorted printed photo. So it was like the actual developed, beautiful photos of the fair just throughout the years. And it's one of the most nostalgic topics. It's just been around for so long, and it's such a part of American culture.
Right. Well, and you have to remember, every single person, I don't care where you're from, you have your fair. You have the fair that you grew up with. I hear stories all the time from everyone that grew up with a small fair that's in Vermont, or grew up in Texas and the Texas State Fair is their fair. Everyone has a fair that they have memories about when they were a child.
Right.
And it hasn't changed that much. It just hasn't. Everyone will tell you, you think they're going to talk about the rides, but they're not. They're going to talk about the animals, or they're going to talk about the food, or they're going to talk about their grandmother made a pie and she won. She always had that pie that won. So everyone's got a story. And I think that's why fairs are so in our blood, because we grew up with it.
Right.
I don't care where you grew up. You grew up with a fair.
I remember the funnel cakes and the
Cotton candy.
cotton candy. Yeah. And then as I got older, it became like fried Oreos and fried Twinkies and then fried butter.
Yeah.
Fried Pepsi was probably the most unique fried item I've ever seen.
How do you even fry Pepsi?
I think you inject it after it's a
And that's
ball
why
of...
they do fried beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite fried
Fried food.
from the fair?
Really, I have to digress from that because I am totally just, kettle corn is my nemesis. It is just, I have to be so careful because it's kind of like comfort food for me, that if it's on my desk, or if Henry does our kettle corn. He's from Orange Park and he travels all over the United States, but he does little samples. I have never passed his booth ever and not grabbed a sample. And then he's so nice. He'll try to give me a bag. I just can't, because it makes me so happy. It's just so tasty. I'll take it. I'll have it in my car. I'll have it at home. I'll have it on my desk. So that's my nemesis. There's just nothing like that kettle corn. And all I can think of is how many calories are in it, because it's sugar. You can taste that sugar right on top of it.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like that's part of the
Moderation.
fair experience, though.
Yeah.
Like, you can't go to the fair and not get at least one bad snack.
But I tell you, this year they tried something new and it was so awesome. They had this promotion that the food vendors that wanted to participate could do a $3 sampler. And the one that I was hooked on was from Cedar River Seafood. It was a piece of flounder. And it was yummy. It was absolutely delicious. But you had like, the lady with Chinese gourmet, she did a little like a bourbon chicken. And then, the guy that does the corn, his corn, he would do a $3 corn. It was in a cup. It was delicious. So I did a lot of that sampling where I tasted just about everything. And on $2 Tuesday, they did the samples for $2.
That's a brilliant idea.
Uh-huh.
It kind of reminds me of like Food and Wine Fest or like Epcot, where you get like smaller plates that are cheaper, so you can go around and eat
Just from
more.
And that's the only time. Well, I did the ribbon fries for $2 Tuesday, and that was fried, and they were delicious. But I told myself, if I'm going to do the flounder, the fried flounder, no more of those ribbon fries. That was but it was delicious. And one of the most popular foods that we have is the steak tips, because I think people don't think of going to the fair and having pieces of steak on top of mashed potatoes with the big mushrooms and the onions on top, and they put it in aluminum foil like you're camping. It's delicious. And the same with my other favorite is Dre's Barbecue. He does North Carolina barbecue. And I've never had anything there that wasn't just yummy. He did, for his $3, he did sliders, just so tasty.
Yeah, my husband's favorite food from the fair is the really long like corn dog. I mean, he talks about those things all year round.
So we are a library and we love to talk books.
Uh-huh.
What is your favorite book?
My favorite of all time is My Year with Eleanor. And I actually brought it. I found it. I knew y'all were going to ask. And if you haven't read this, back in, I don't know if it's about 2014 or 15, I felt like my children were grown, and I was having grandchildren, and I felt like things were changing, and I was kind of evolving, and I didn't know how I was handling it, if I was handling it well. So I read The Happiness Project, and I decided, this was at the first of the year, I decided that I was going to start doing The Happiness Project every day, do something different to be happy. And that just got kind of time consuming. I mean, it got a little daunting. Writing in a journal is one thing, but trying to do something every day different. I mean, I did crazy things for that one. Like one day I decided I wanted to know what it was like to be a redhead. So I wore a red wig all day long. And people in the office were just kind of off put by it because it was obviously not my hair. But it did make me happy. But I decided that it just looked I wasn't comfortable. And you can do something wacky, but if you're not comfortable, then you're defeating the purpose. And so I don't know, by accident, I ran across this book because I don't know if it started with the Happiness Project. I found myself, I'd always been a little fearless, and I found myself becoming very fearful of just everything. I was fearful of everything. It wasn't, I wasn't happy talking in public. I wasn't happy making a decision. I would stand in front of produce and I couldn't make a decision what to buy. And I thought, what the heck is wrong with me? I'm changing and not liking it. So I ran across this book about how Eleanor Roosevelt every day did something she was afraid of, and something that made her fearful. I had jumped out of a plane, so I knew that things like that didn't bother me. But it was little things. It was things like that I'd always been comfortable with, like walking in a room. So and meeting people. I just didn't want to do it anymore. And So I read this book and I challenged myself all the time. I didn't do it every day. I did it every week. Every week, I would find something that would make me afraid, and I would do it. I would, like, I'm afraid of my car. I'm afraid of the engine. I'm afraid to, I was afraid of a flat tire. The thought of having a flat tire would make me crazy. So I learned how to change it. I learned how to, with those funny little jacks. They're not like jacks like I grew up with that look like a jack. These things you had to put together. And so I learned how to do that. I learned, I'm very fearful of diving, of underwater diving. So I did that. I didn't do it for long, but I used to dive when I was younger. I scuba dived when I was in Oklahoma in horrible lakes. So the thought of going, in the Caribbean and diving, I should have been happy, but it was just, I had such a fear. So I tried very, very hard to defeat things like that. I defeated, I never was a very good cook, but I decided I was very fearful that I was going to fail. And I think that's a whole lot of it. So I became a really good cook because of this book. Anything that I was afraid of, I decided, I'm not going to be that person anymore. And I always try, I'm not very good at it, but I always try to go into a meeting or into an event and meet 3 people that I say, I'm going to have lunch. I'm going to call you. We're going to have drinks or have lunch. I'm not really good about, I'll call them or I'll email them, actually doing it. So I've got to be better on that follow-up. But I changed as a person because of this book. I mean, I totally just became happier, learned how to do things that just the little silly things, like plants. My yard looks amazing. And that's because I felt like I was going to fail at doing it. It doesn't matter anymore. I'll just buy new ones, and try all over again. But that's why this is my favorite book of all time.
That's a very good description of that book. Yeah, I mean, I can understand why that is your favorite book. And now I need to read it.
You do. It changed me. And when I saw your email, what's your favorite book? So I thought, I know I have, because I use it as my resource. If I forget something, if I forget, that I want to be not the person that I'm, kind of going in my shell, because I think all of us have, not all of us are extroverted all the time. I mean, we introvert, and sometimes the older we get, it's getting easier to not put yourself out there as much. And I really don't want to be that person. I don't want to miss out. I don't want to miss out on anything. I don't want to miss out on a wine tasting. I don't want to miss out on any great food that's coming out. I don't want to miss out on a movie. I don't want to miss out on a play. I don't want to miss out anything anymore.
I love that. And Gabby and I will get lunch and drinks with you if you're part of your two or 3 people.
I was going to say, you're probably in a pretty good industry too. I mean, you're constantly meeting people, and seems like you can stay busy pretty easily.
Yeah, but it's also very difficult sometimes. It's real easy when you go to these national conventions to really just sit back and want to watch people instead of being a part of it and being a player in the discussions. Or it's so easy just to go, I think I'll just stand back here and watch people instead of being a part of it. So it's really, you're going to miss out. You're going to miss some great people, and you're going to miss some, meeting those, cattle people from Wyoming that have so much to say, or I just don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, and there's kind of a lot of, responsibility with your position. Like, you can't be one of those people that stands, that becomes a wallflower, because then it affects the performance of the fair.
It does. And there's a time and place for all of that. There's a time and a place that you can, be the people watcher. And I did a little bit of that during the fair. After my piece, I write the brochures, and I get, all of that piece together. And So once all of that, the marketing piece is done and we've got the commercials done and everything's running and we've made the media buy and, you see the billboards, all that stuff is up. And then I've got the entertainers booked and they're on stage. Then you have that moment that you can just sit back and,
Well deserved.
oh my gosh, those children are just adorable. We do have barn tours for the kindergartners, for preschools and kindergartners. And theirs is shorter. They just go directly in the barn and it's cute as can be.
So you like barn field trips or? Oh,
Yeah.
cute.
You just have to call in. There's a designated times to do that within the fair. See, there's so many pieces. If you can tell, I kind of, a la carte it.
Yeah.
Just kind of when all of a sudden it's like, oh, I forgot to mention that because there's so many.
There's so much going on.
There's so much
like
going
when I was looking at the schedule, I'm like, God, I want to go to that and I want to go to that and I want to go to that, but they're all like on different days. Like that's how I was wondering how you make the event schedule, and how you pick the parts that fit in for the day when it's just such.
I tell you, for me, and this is just so silly, but my hardest part of my job is when I put the schedule together with all the times is to make it where something isn't on top of the other one. I goofed a little bit, like I was standing, like we put in a community stage this year, and I'm watching the people on the community stage, and all of a sudden I see like the dog shows going on, and I'm like, oh man, how'd that happen? So that to me is there's so many things going on that it's inevitable that something's going to be on top of the other. There's just no way. We've got so many pieces.
Definitely. And I always get so excited when I drive over the bridge and I see that the Ferris wheel is lit.
Oh, I know.
I'm like, yay, it's time for the fair.
Remember the days when we were able to have the fair lit all night long? Well, now, of course, with energy prices, you can't do that. I used to love that. I used to love, because sometimes my days start at 4:30 a.m. when I'm meeting the media early, and I would drive up and see all those lights and be like, oh, I'm so lucky this is my job.
Yeah, definitely.
I love it.
And we're so lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you.
Running behind the helm of the fair. I mean,
Thank you.
You're just a fantastic person.
Thank you.
Fantastic stories and fantastic drive,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Definitely. So is there anything that we should be looking out for next year's fair?
We are going to change it up, and I don't know at this point until we go to convention. We'll go to convention and we'll look at some grounds acts and see what we think, might be good to add, what we think maybe we want to replace. There's this year, I felt like the fair visual was gorgeous. It was more open, more clean, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for things that good interactive pieces. Like this year we had Play with Giants, which is actually just big toy pieces that were in the exhibit hall. That was a hit, an absolute hit. So we'll keep that, but we're always looking for something new and different. Next year, if we decide once again to open on Thursday, I believe it's going to be November 5th through the 15th. I didn't touch on this, but I would like to. We've always opened on Wednesday for decades. We can't start setting up our fair till after Florida, Georgia. Florida, Georgia's always on a Saturday. And we set up the carnival, everything, snap on Sunday and opened on Wednesday. Having this one extra day on Thursday allowed the carnival that one extra day of setting up. So they were able to take their time. The rides could be open, because everything wasn't such a hurry. So if we do, and I hope, we haven't discussed, the ramifications of losing that one day, because we've always been a 12-day fair. I think it was so worth it. It was, I think we achieved what we wanted to. I felt like safety was first. The inspectors came out and everyone was able to feel really good about everything. And I personally felt like, for us, having that extra day was calming. It it afforded us to do everything well, incredibly well.
Yeah,
And I liked it.
definitely worth the
It is. So if that's the case, we will open on the 5th through the 15th in 2020.
I look forward to hearing what happens at the conference. Maybe we can have you back
I'd
on
love to tell you.
before the 2020 fair, and we can tell our listeners what to expect.
I would love to tell you what the conference is like. It's just amazing. It had been in Las Vegas forever, and then the past 2 years, last year was the first year it's in San Antonio. So this is our second year to go to San Antonio, and it's just basically, running into people from all over the United States and hearing their stories, good, bad, and indifferent. I mean, it really is. I mean, people will hear about people that had to deal with what we had to deal with, which is cold weather. How the heck, how were your numbers? That type of thing. But, and what worked for them. I always love to hear, what worked as far as entertainment, what worked as, the grounds acts, and, the people that work in the livestock area, they learn so much. I mean, that's not my expertise. I know enough to be dangerous and enough that I can spell it and put it in the brochure and that type of thing. But other than understand and know, what is needed with the shavings and the type of pens they need, I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where our livestock people learn all those things.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Gayle, for coming on today. It was an absolute pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you. I feel like we're just all like friends sitting around.
I know, this is good stuff.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Completely Booked. We hope you enjoyed getting to know Gayle and finding out what happens behind the scenes of the Greater Jacksonville Fair. I learned so many cool things. Justin, did you learn anything in this podcast?
I actually didn't know that things happened at the fair all year round,
Yeah.
at the fairgrounds. Because when I go to Jaguars games, people park there. And I didn't realize there were possibly events going on at the same time.
Yeah. And what about you, Gabby?
I didn't realize how separate the carnival portion of the fair was to the actual educational part of the fair.
Yeah.
I thought that was really neat.
Gayle is such a fantastic force behind the fair, and I'm looking forward to next year. And I'm hoping we can have her back on next fall so we can chat about things to expect at the fair in 2020.
Definitely. And be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at Jack's Library for updates on future podcasts and all library happenings. And until next time, I'm Gabby.
And I'm Amanda.
Bye guys.